Christmas, it's end of year, and that means it's time to look back through some of our favourite pieces of hardware currently around. 2021 has undoubtedly been a weird year for hardware with poor availability and shortages all around. But thankfully, in this video, we'll be looking at a largely unaffected section of the market, motherboards. So let's get into it. In terms of budget motherboards that you'd actually still want to buy in 2021, the previous year has actually been relatively limited. Intel did bring out some 500 series chipset options, but now 11th gen processors are pretty much dead as far as we're concerned. You wouldn't consider buying those in late 2021, especially with the new lower end budget 12th gen options just around the corner, and of course they need the LGA 1700 platform, so a completely different motherboard. As such, we feel that AMD's B550 platform maintains its position as the go-to motherboard chipset of choice. And the motherboard that we still like on this affordable chipset is the MSI Mag B550 Tomahawk. This board actually won our best of last year, and it maintains its position very strongly this year. You get a very hefty power delivery solution with well-designed coolant heat sinks for the VRM as well as M.2 SSDs. Fan support and management is very good, and there's 2.5 gigabit Ethernet alongside an additional 1 gigabit NIC for wired networking capabilities. The other big factor is price drops that we've seen for the B550 Tomahawk in recent months, which now means that the board's available for around about £130 to £140 in the UK on various e-tailers. That's a very reasonable price for what we consider to still be a high quality B550 offering that provides the main core features that most users will want. And that's not bad when you consider that running a powerhouse processor like the 16-core Ryzen 9 5950X is perfectly valid and perfectly justifiable on a motherboard such as this one. So budget, we like the B550 Tomahawk. Now we're probably pushing the categorization of mid-range here, as there are some particularly strong options in the roughly £200 to £300 market in the UK. Notably, that will be the MSI Mag X570S Tomahawk Max Wi-Fi, and also the Asus Tough Gaming X570 Pro Wi-Fi 2. Both of those boards are passively cooled. With that said, Intel's Z690 platform is now a really strong and expensive high-end option, and perhaps justifiably relegates a lot of the X570 boards to mid-range and upper mid-range status. As such, we're choosing an X570 motherboard that we reviewed a few months ago as our go-to mid-range option. The Gigabyte X570S Aorus Master took many of the fantastic features from the original X570 non-S Aorus Master and simply made them better. This fully fledged motherboard offers one of the strongest power delivery solutions you'll see on the entire AM4 platform, and it musters up such hardware whilst also being entirely passively cooled on both the MOSFETs and the chipset. Gigabyte really did pull out all the stops when it came to design a quality set of heatsinks for this premium silent X570 offering. Enthusiast features galore, Gigabyte also specs in quadruple M.2 SSD slots and high-speed networking connectivity of 2.5 gigabit Ethernet and Wi-Fi 6E. Plus you get a 20 gigabits per second USB Type-C port if that takes your fancy. There really are very few areas where Gigabyte could have made a better board whilst also keeping the sensible price tag, or somewhat sensible if you prefer. The feature set will cater to PC hardware enthusiasts, overclockers and general tinkerers alike. Of course, the roughly £340 price point really does push the boundaries of what we consider to be truly mid-range, but Intel's Z690 platform now justifiably takes its position as the upper mid-range or high-end or expensive option when it comes to motherboards, so over to Leo for that one.
Luke has made the rational and coherent argument in favour of two AMD motherboards. At the low end we have B550, and further up the range we have an X570S. I have here an array of Intel Z690 motherboards and have reviewed none of them. And the snag right now is, before CES, that you need to use a Z690 chipset motherboard. The budget motherboards aren't going to be coming for another few weeks yet. They're launching at CES, hopefully will be available immediately after CES. And then we'll see an array of chipsets and hopefully an array of prices. I'm going to give you a very quick tour of these contenders for Z690 motherboards. This ROG Maximus Z690 Extreme Glacial from Asus is ludicrous because it costs £1,700. You might want it, you're not going to buy it. Then we have the ROG Maximus Z690 Hero, which sells for £520. This is more like it, but £520 is a lot of money, and as we're not recommending the £600+ Core i9, instead we're favouring the £400 Core i7, £300 Core i5, do you want to spend £500 on a motherboard? Having said that, the Z690 Hero has all the features that you expect from a ROG board that's towards the top of the tree. It's a similar story with the Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Master. This is priced around the £430 mark, so we're still talking serious money. Thing is that if you think back to when AMD launched the X370 chipset motherboards, they were okay. And then the motherboard manufacturers bumped up their game for the 470 series, much better VRMs, better list of features for the X570 and then B550. They were really on it. It's been a similar story with Intel around the same time. When Coffee Lake came along, motherboard manufacturers had to respond, and then we went to Rocket Lake where they really had to deliver some power. These boards, they all look really good. You may recognise the MSI Meg Z690 Unify that I've used for my CPU reviews. This board is just over the £500 mark. It's very high end, it leans towards the memory overclocking side of things, DDR5 obviously, no RGB, so it's stealth black, which is, to be honest, one of the reasons why I used it in my reviews. I haven't yet worked with the MSI Z690 Carbon Wi-Fi, sells for £410, so therefore clearly going for the upper end of performance but not yet astronomical money price bracket. Based on previous Carbon Wi-Fis that we've seen from MSI, it's going to be a solid piece of work. Of that I have very little doubt. But £410 is plenty of dosh, and you need DDR5, which as we know is problematic. And that brings us to this, the MAG Z690 Tomahawk Wi-Fi, which sells for £260 and supports DDR4 memory. And that gives us a conundrum. The super duper high-end Z690 board selling for £300, £400, £500 or £1,700 with epic VRMs that can deliver 1,000 amps of power, and they support DDR5 and DDR5 overclocking. You're looking at an enormous sum of money. On paper, this Z690 Tomahawk Wi-Fi supports the Core i5 that we adore to bits with DDR4. Clearly, we need to give the Tomahawk Wi-Fi a good run along with that Core i5 to see just how well that processor behaves when you ally it with a sensible motherboard and memory you can actually buy. And that's it for this video. On the budget and mid-range side of things, Luke has AM4 covered. When it comes to the upper end, I've dropped the ball entirely. Z690 for now, but watch this space. Intel has budget chipsets coming very soon.